then we met somebody who was in the Trump circle, and they said, man, you should really give him a call and see what, see if you guys can talk. And he's like, the next minute, a couple minutes later, he gets a phone call, he gets pulled in on a phone call, and they say, answer this number, you're not going to recognize it, and the next thing you're on the phone with President Trump. And they're talking powers and just...
Me, because now he is super excited about Kamala. But I haven't seen... I was going to say that as much as I would love to encourage vote splitting for Trump and to have a bunch of Trump supporters be upset about the vax or whatever and vote for RFK, as much as I would love that, it's like logically retarded. I mean, if you believe, like even if you're trying to make a lesser of two evils argument, like basic philosophy would tell you that you should support the lesser of two evils, because that is less evil, and less evil is better than more evil. Really doesn't make sense to, Okay, so who are you going to vote? Are you going to support Kamala? Yeah, I would be supporting Kamala, yes. Why?
You don't have
because I'm a gay communist, and I want to destroy America and turn all the children transgender. Okay, that's why I... Me, because now he is super excited about Kamala. But I haven't seen... I was going to say that as much as I would love to encourage vote splitting for Trump and to have a bunch of Trump supporters be upset about the vax or whatever and vote for RFK, as much as I would love that, it's like logically retarded. I mean, if you believe, like even if you're trying to make a lesser of two evils argument, like basic philosophy would tell you that you should support the lesser of two evils, because that is less evil, and less evil is better than more evil. Really doesn't make sense to, Okay, so who are you going to vote? Are you going to support Kamala?
In many ways, as has been seen, Saturn in Scorpio has critical tendencies. It imperils the reputation. It brings scandal or unpopularity, and badly aspected, may cause reverses or downfall. Its influence upon the health is rather perilous in early life. Though that period safely passed, it promises a long life. It is, however, a position very favorable for association with mystical or secret societies. Saturn in Sagittarius. There is in nature perhaps little harmony between Saturn and Sagittarius. Saturn is slow and heavy. Sagittarius swift and transient. Sign is one of many-colored light. The planet is dull as lead, but Jupiter is lord of Sagittarius, and just as in the Roman mythology the heir of the elder god overthrew his father, the impulses of the active and spendthrift planet accelerate the slowness and loosen the selfish. In many ways, as has been seen, Saturn and Scorpio. We may now turn to the grand yet sinister figure of Martin Luther. Here, Mars, Saturn, Venus, and the Sun are in Scorpio, give violent pride to the sense of self. That his life force and his self-pride are all brought together in Scorpio may explain the secret, though perhaps unconscious, real source of his break with Rome. The conjunction of Venus with Saturn is a further stimulus to this inherent dissatisfaction with clerical celibacy. In Goethe we find less violence and more adroitness in the emphasis of his ego. Saturn just above the horizon is trined by the moon and has the illuminating square of Uranus, all of which harmonizes the personality with the instinct of self-preservation. This instinct is strong but clever, and we comprehend if we do not altogether applaud his sword and his diamond buckles. In many ways, as has been seen, Saturn in Scorpio. We may now turn to the grand yet sinister figure of Martin Luther. Here, Mars, Saturn, Venus, and the Sun are in Scorpio, give violent pride to the sense of self. That his life force and his... Saturn is squaring Mars, Jupiter, and Neptune, sextile to the moon, while trying to Uranus. While there is plenty of self-preservation, the moon and Uranus both bring vision. The disproportion, the dispositions are consequently not altogether bad, but the great wisdom was undoubtedly used for material ends. Sir Humphrey Davy has Saturn in Scorpio, but Jupiter and Neptune are conjoined in sextile, Venus in sextile, the Sun and Mars semi-sextile. Here is much favorable modification of Saturn, who is rising. Thus the cell force, rendered bright and tender by such aspects, is in complete harmony with the personality. Here strength is wedded with gentleness, and we can understand readily how he was able to give his life to its purpose without upsetting his contemporaries in bitterness and controversy. We may now turn to the grand yet sinister figure of Saturn is squaring Mars, Jupiter, and Neptune, sextile to the moon, while trine to Uranus. While there is plenty of self-preservation, the moon and Uranus both bring vision. The disproportion, the dispositions are consequently not altogether bad, but the great wisdom was undoubtedly used for material ends. Sir Humphrey Davy has Saturn in Scorpio, but Saturn's strength is not aided by fortune. The afflictions were bound to bring the natives' ultimate downfall. The unfortunate monarch Charles I of England had this position. Here Saturn in opposition to Uranus is close to the cusp of the fourth house for an ill end to the matter, and he receives no notable help. But we can gauge the desperate quality of the native struggle to hold his inheritance, the secret and mendacious and fatal paths trodden by him in that attempt. An example of overdevelopment of the self is seen in Thomas More. Mars and the moon are in conjunction with Saturn to give recklessness and dissipation, Mercury in opposition to make it blind. Only the sextile of Jupiter adds a touch of geniality, which made him welcome only as the companion of an hour in a tavern or a parlor. Compare particularly in this matter the case of J.P. Morgan. Saturn is squaring Mars, Jupiter, and Neptune, sextile to the moon, while trine to Uranus. We may now turn to the grand yet sinister figure of Martin Luther. Here Mars, in many ways, as has been seen, Saturn in Scorpio has critical tendencies.
Me, because now he is super excited about Kamala. But I haven't
I was
seen
going to say that as much as I would love to encourage vote splitting for Trump and to have a bunch of Trump supporters be upset about the vax or whatever and vote for RFK.
Similar remarks apply to Lord Brougham. Here Saturn in Scorpio gives a harsh, unscrupulous purpose which is developed in material affairs by the sextile of Jupiter. But Mercury just above the ascendant conceals Saturn effectively, though he is the real director of the inner thought. The self-seeking of the great lawyer wore a mask of tact, wit, and amiability, beneath which the corrosive acid of his purpose ate away his enemies. Compare with this the nativity of Archbishop Laud. Here Saturn has the conjunction of Venus, is square of the moon, and an opposition of Jupiter, who in the ninth house signifies religion, with no help beyond the semi-sextile of the Sun. It is the typical selfish and intriguing prelate, Saturn on the cusp of the third house, constantly occupying the mind with ambition and the lust of power. But Saturn's strength is not aided by fortune. Similar remarks apply to Lord Brougham. Here Saturn in Scorpio gives a harsh, unscrupulous purpose which is developed in material affairs by the sextile of Jupiter. But Mercury just above the ascendant conceals Saturn effectively, though he is the real director of the inner thought. The self-seeking of the great lawyer wore a mask of tact, wit, and amiability, beneath which the corrosive acid of his purpose ate away his enemies. Compare with this the nativity of Archbishop Laud. Here Saturn has the conjunction of Venus, is square of the moon, and an opposition of Jupiter, who in the ninth house signifies religion, with no help beyond the semi-sextile of the Sun. It is the typical selfish and intriguing prelate, Saturn on the cusp of the third house, constantly occupying the mind with ambition and the lust of power. But Saturn's strength is not aided by fortune. Saturn in Scorpio. The quality of secretiveness in Scorpio and its order in the zodiac is the natural sign for the house of death. Make it a sympathetic menstruum for Saturn's rays. There is naturally, however, something deep, obscure, and sinister in this position of the planet, and when it has a fair chance, it will give such a tone to the ahamkara, the name given by the philosophers of India to the ego-making faculty, or the Saturn force in the human character. While this position of Saturn tends to produce a character both masterful and subtle, the evidence of this peculiar effect is not easy to find on account of its very habit of concealing itself. In the case of Tennyson, it was so covered by external graces, in particular the influence of Venus, that it is only from private sources that we know the traces of the Scorpio self. Saturn in Scorpio. The quality of secretiveness in Scorpio and its order in the zodiac is the natural sign for the house of death. Make it a sympathetic menstruum for Saturn's rays. There is naturally, however, something deep, obscure, and sinister in this position of the planet, and when it has a fair chance, it will give such a tone to the ahamkara, the name given by the philosophers of India to the ego-making faculty, or the Saturn force in the human character. While this position of Saturn tends to produce a character both masterful and subtle, the evidence of this peculiar effect is not easy to find on account of its very habit of concealing itself. In the case of Tennyson, it was so covered by external graces, in particular the influence of Venus, that it is only from private sources that we know the traces of the Scorpio self. Saturn in Scorpio. The quality of secretiveness in Scorpio and its order in the zodiac is the natural sign for the house of death. Make it a sympathetic menstruum for Saturn's rays. There is naturally, however, something deep, obscure, and sinister in this position of the planet, and when it has a fair chance, it will give such a tone to the ahamkara, the name given by the philosophers of India to the ego-making faculty, or the Saturn force in the human character. While this position of Saturn tends to produce a character both masterful and subtle, the evidence of this peculiar effect is not easy to find on account of its very habit of concealing itself. In the case of Tennyson, it was so covered by external graces, in particular the influence of Venus, that it is only from private sources that we know the traces of the Scorpio self. Saturn in Scorpio. The quality of secretiveness in Scorpio and its order in the zodiac is the natural sign for the house of death. Make it a sympathetic menstruum for Saturn's rays. There is naturally, however, something deep, obscure, and sinister in this position of the planet, and when it has a fair chance, it will give such a tone to the ahamkara, the name given by the philosophers of India to the ego-making faculty, or the Saturn force in the human character. While this position of Saturn tends to produce a character both masterful and subtle, the evidence of this peculiar effect is not easy to find on account of its very habit of concealing itself. In the case of Tennyson, it was so covered by external graces, in particular the influence of Venus, that it is only from private sources that we know the traces of the Scorpio self. Saturn in Scorpio. The quality of secretiveness in Scorpio and its order in the zodiac is the natural sign for the house of death. Make it a sympathetic menstruum for Saturn's rays. There is naturally, however, something deep, obscure, and sinister in this position of the planet, and when it has a fair chance, it will give such a tone to the ahamkara, the name given by the philosophers of India to the ego-making faculty, or the Saturn force in the human character. While this position of Saturn tends to produce a character both masterful and subtle, the evidence of this peculiar effect is not easy to find on account of its very habit of concealing itself. In the case of Tennyson, it was so covered by external graces, in particular the influence of Venus, that it is only from private sources that we know the traces of the Scorpio self. Saturn in Scorpio. The quality of secretiveness in Scorpio and its order in the zodiac is the natural sign for the house of death. Make it a sympathetic menstruum for Saturn's rays. There is naturally, however, something deep, obscure, and sinister in this position of the planet, and when it has a fair chance, it will give such a tone to the ahamkara, the name given by the philosophers of India to the ego-making faculty, or the Saturn force in a human character. While this position of Saturn tends to produce a character both masterful and subtle, the evidence of this peculiar effect is not easy to find on account of its very habit of concealing itself. In the case of Tennyson, it was so covered by external graces, in particular the influence of Venus, that it is only from private sources that we know the traces of the Scorpio safe. Saturn in Scorpio. The quality of secretiveness in Scorpio and its order in the zodiac is the natural sign for the house of death. Make it a sympathetic menstruum for Saturn's rays. There is naturally, however, something deep, obscure, and sinister in this position of the planet, and when it has a fair chance, it will give such a tone to the ahamkara, the name given by the philosophers of India to the ego-making faculty, or the Saturn force in a human character. While this position of Saturn tends to produce a character both masterful and subtle, the evidence of this peculiar effect is not easy to find on account of its very habit of concealing itself. In the case of Tennyson, it was so covered by external graces, in particular the influence of Venus, that it is only from private sources that we know the traces of the Scorpio safe. Saturn in Scorpio. The quality of secretiveness in Scorpio and its order in the zodiac is the natural sign for the house of death.
Okay, everybody, this has been Clubhouse Analysis.
$5 left over. There's 3 of them, and we have $5 left over. So they couldn't get $2 each. That'd be 6. If we gave them $1 each, that's 3. That's the missing
That's
dollar.
what you give them. That's what you give them. You give them each $1 back. You know? You okay?
Jesus.
Fall down? That,
Yeah,
it was just what happened.
you're just
Oh, I'm sorry.
Great. Okay.
Apologies to share with me. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you watching that, Rock, because I just went back and watched it a couple more times, and the guy is not saying that they were right. right? He's saying that when you are talking the way you're talking, right, if you do this, then like he's talking about it as a language thing, right? And he's talking about it like he doesn't think you can come to those conclusions, right? So you can't say yes or no. Now we can say emotionally we think that this was wrong, but he's saying, like, you know, here's this large group of people who think objectively they were right. So again, this comes down to, doesn't it come down to morals as being our preferences, right? So this is what the kid is saying. He's not actually saying, hey, I think the Nazis were right.
Yeah. He didn't say it could happen.
Okay, I want to hear some other opinions here because people came up on this stage and
Well, I mean, Victoria, really quick, just to hit on that, since Nora is gone, I guess she got booted or something, or she just got scared. It's the same thing as when we talk with like people who have like lower intelligence, less education, harsher surroundings, right? And we say, is it justified, or is it rational, rather, for someone to believe that they're saved by a dead carpenter, right? And yeah, it is rational for them because of their bandwidth of understanding, right? That's me being a rational person from the outside going, you know what? Technically, it is rational for them to be fearful of the devil because they grew up in Africa and think voodoo's real, you know?
I want to comment for a second on Bib's comment. So I appreciate his comments. Tried watching the clip, but Charlie Kirk makes me wretched. Makes me wretched too. And then he says, harm equals no good. Right about that. I go with first of all harm, and then what makes that a human thing, but that is a human thing. Okay. So that is what I think was missing in that clip, what Bib was saying. But
Moderators, put me in the queue.
you're in the queue. You can speak.
Okay, so yeah, so I just want to say these things I pray to see thee more clearly. And that deals with transparency, which is what Christ means. That's what the Messiah brings, which is truth. And I'm a big fan of the 1981 Excalibur film, but there's so many King Arthurian movies that came out over the past like 40 years that the myth or the mythology or the motif of King Arthur, Excalibur, Merlin, this is a recurring mythology throughout human history. And I would just like to say that a lot of people who think they're super smart on this app, what they're really here for is just drugs. Like, this is getting you high and you're not reading books and, you know, you're a schmuck. Well, hold on. I want to quote El Normo. You're a schmuck.
Okay, listen, we engaged in a few no-nos in this room right now. We don't want to talk much about we want to say bad about other people. We're not right now. We want to stick to the topic. You want to say anything about the video? I'm up for that. Anything about the video that we just looked at? Did you see it?
No, I'm late to the room. I didn't watch the video.
You're like the guy that I'd want to talk to about this objective slash whatever the subjective. So I thought you'd watch the video and you'd give us a very well-read, broad-minded, flexible, philosophical point of view that I know that you generally have. But you want to look at it and then give us an opinion?
So you put 1,000 Jews in a gas chamber, and the Nazis thought what they were doing was good, and they pressed the button. Were they right or were they wrong in gassing millions of Jews?
Objectively, you can't, like, when you say, is it objectively wrong? Hold on, wait. If you say it's objectively wrong, you're implying that you can derive a truth value from it, and I don't think you can. So I don't think that you can make a true statement regarding whether something's good or bad.
Got it. So just to be clear, the Nazis could have been right in their actions, in your view.
I'm not saying they're not wrong.
I just want to make sure this is important, because what you are saying, and you're saying it very clearly, is that
is wrong if you're not doing so in respect towards the goal, right? Just saying that murder is bad doesn't mean anything. You're not conveying anything useful within that statement, right? Because you're not presenting, like some sort of goal in mind with that statement. Like, if you care about the longevity of life life, you know, if you care about life and happiness and well-being, then you should not murder people. That would make murder wrong within that context, right? Like, I'm providing the context within why I'm saying it is wrong. And that would be subjective to my personal opinions. And I don't understand how anybody can get out of that. People can say that there's this objective wrong to murdering people, but they're just bloviating at that point. They're not really saying anything meaningful. And so that's kind of where I'm gonna land.
I just want to add that the reason.
Eitan, put me back in the queue. Hold on, Victoria. I watched the video. Put me in the queue. Go ahead, Victoria.
Yeah, I just want to comment on what Shanito said, which was, like, I agree with you, Shanito, and the reason people say it's bad is they're making this massive assumption that everybody shares values with them, right? That if I think it's bad because I have this goal of, you know, a great peaceful society, so murder is bad within that, I'm assuming that everybody else has that goal, but they don't know that, right? And people might think that murder is bad for different goals, right? So that's why they do it. So I totally agree with you. Thank you for breaking it down like that.
Okay, I did promise Adrian that he'd be in the queue. Adrian, please.
Yeah, I watched the video. And before I tell you my opinion of the video, I'll just say a gaslighting statement, which is not personal. It's just that all communication is hypnosis, is the belief that neurolinguistic programming can be a therapeutic tool. But what I'm trying to get at is that, now let me tell you about the video, meaning that what Charlie Kirk does in the beginning is the dumbest question, and it almost makes him sound like an anti-Semite Jew hater. And what he's doing is setting up a simulation using a verbose, vulgar, stupid hypothesis setup of hypnosis. And then this is what I hear a lot on this app for many years now, is people playing this word game called subjective, objective, objective, subjective. And then this kid, a young kid who's obviously has got a very fast brain and very smart, those two strokers are both wrong. And I'll say it again, they're both strokers. And when I say stroker, I mean they're both in that Charlie Kirk is in the media communication industry. And this is the critique of Candace Owens as well, is that she is an intentional gaslighter for clicks and eyeballs and media competition, just in the same way that CNN and MSNBC and every other major news portal is now engaged in essentially troll farming, engagement farming, click farming, propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, and they're ruining everyone's lives because you are sucked into it because you get a dopamine feedback loop from their communication. So you're doing it right now by encouraging me to click to watch a Charlie Kirk video, but I give you the grace because I think I can analyze these strokers and call them for what they are. Strokers.
Are we to ignore anything that we're seeing because we might give it a click race? So what are you saying?
I'm saying that all communication is hypnosis, time is money, money is time.
Understood. Yeah. Okay. I'm Rudy. I'd like to be Rudy. Would you like to speak? I'd like to get your opinion on this too. Would you like to speak? Rudy coming up. Hi, Rudy. Okay. What we're doing is we're watching this 30-second spot, and I'd like to get your opinion on it. You see it? Watch it and let us know what you think. All right, Adrian. Okay, so we're serving in their hands if we're showing this video, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're participating in their communication by orchestrating this room to encourage people to pay attention to their communication. If you want to be free of these charlatans, you have to know that everyone in this room is technically the truth. And you may not agree with everyone in this room, but hopefully you can all agree to disagree and know that peace is the ultimate outcome of all war. And unfortunately, we are living, you know, that movie Cool Hand Luke, when he says, I think what we have here is a failure to communicate.
Hey, really quick, before you go on your soliloquy, did you say peace is the ultimate outcome of all war? Is that what you said?
Correct. It's Tao Te Ching. This is Lao Tzu.
All right, guys, okay.
No, there was nothing to land. I was done. Hey, I know you may not like me and you may not vote Trump, but go to the gym, fatty, and I'll say it again. What we have here is a failure to communicate.
Adrian, I love you. That's why I brought you up.
I love you too, Raboino Shalala.
Brody, did you see the clip?
Yeah, I saw the clip.
What do you have to say about it?
I disagree with the student, and I also disagree with the church.
Okay. And when you disagree, what exactly have you disagreed with?
Atheism doesn't entail objectivism. Atheism doesn't entail, subjectivism. Subjectivism doesn't entail that you cannot say that the Holocaust is bad, good, or bad for that matter. And regardless, and let's just suppose for the sake of the argument,
that's how pathetic it's gotten. He's admitting, he says, "Oh,
material differences of dead people or non-dead people," because even if there was objective morality by God or whatever, it would still be the case that people that believe in objective morality will also result in a lot of dead people if they have incongruent beliefs about morality. So it's every single thing about it is a mess.
I lost by a."
I think that Adrian Trump has he may get into that. I'll leave it alone.
If you're going to mention my name, if you want to mention my name, put me back in the queue, moderators. I guess I'm not finished here.
Wait a minute. Okay, we got a few things going on. We got someone that brought Adrian back in. We got Victoria saying about what about the civil Holocaust denial?
Well, C said something about him not being a Holocaust denier, but neither was the student. The student was specifically talking about objective truth. He was just talking about truth. That's all he was talking about.
Right. Yeah, nobody there was a Holocaust denier. There's another clip I got on Holocaust denial, but that's a different story. Okay.
Yeah, I was in a room earlier with this intellectual giant, CMB, aka Prince Anur, half man, half world, and he believes in reparations, and I just think that's communism. Prove me wrong.
Reparations
for African Americans or ADOS.
Now that's an interesting subject to bring up right now. Okay.
I think I have laid out that eloquently, when Steve was exposed to the room. Yes, I do believe in reparations for ADOS people come from.
A law where they're going to give we're going to give illegal aliens money to buy a house, but our soldiers, our veterans that are laying on the streets, they can't have them. You have soldiers right now laying on the streets of different cities, all Democrat run. They're laying on the streets in front of hotels, in some cases luxury hotels, and you have illegal immigrants coming in and living in those hotels and laughing at our soldiers as they walk by into a luxury lobby. Is there something wrong with that thinking? Is there something wrong with our country? If Kamala is allowed to continue to let our country be invaded, we will face a fiscal Armageddon. These migrants are consuming hundreds of billions of dollars in benefits. You saw in Colorado this week, a group from Venezuela, rough ones, they took over large sections of a town, large sections of an area of Colorado, Aurora. Has anyone been there? I think you'd better stay away for a little while. They had AK-47s, the ultimate guns, AK-47s. They can blow lots of people away real fast. And the sheriff didn't want to touch them. Nobody wants to touch them. The sheriff, there's 18 Venezuelans attacking my building. Would you please come over and straighten out the situation? He's got a deputy. You know what they say? Well, no thanks. Let's call in the military. They're taking over. And I said this 4 years ago when I realized they wanted open borders. And it's happened. It's happening now in Chicago. They're taking over sections of Chicago. What's happening in New York and Los Angeles and many other cities is not even describable. They're tough. They're tough and they're smart and they're vicious. Don't forget, they come from the prisons and they're the bad criminals on the streets. Caracas, Venezuela has almost no crime. Next year, I'm going to suggest that the Economic Club hold its meeting in Caracas because we'll be safer than we are in our country if they win. We'll be far safer. But crime in Venezuela is down 72% because they've taken all of their criminals off the streets. Not all of them. They still have some left, but they're coming in rapidly by bus and by plane. They're coming into our country and we're dumping them in our country. And they say, if you come back, we will kill you. And they're not going back. We got them. But they're going back if I'm president. I guarantee you that. They're going back fast. And now Kamala wants to give them food stamps, housing assistance, welfare, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and destroy all of those programs. You will destroy those programs. That is why I will ask Congress to pass legislation barring all taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens. And by the way, when you do that, they won't come. They're coming now because they realize they've never seen wealth like this. They're getting things that they could never get. They're coming for that reason. If you stop that, you'll be dropping the flow by 80%. I think even more than that. They're coming because they're taking care of them. Let's put them in a luxury. Let's put them in the Waldorf Astoria. That's a nice place. I will stop the invasion and send criminal illegal aliens back home. And when we do all of this, we will be so successful. We'll create America's own sovereign wealth fund to invest in great national endeavors for the benefit of all of the American people. Why don't we have a wealth fund? Other countries have wealth funds. We have nothing. We have nothing. We're going to have a sovereign wealth fund, or we can name it something different. I'll talk about it with Mr. Paulson, who's in the audience, and a lot of other friends of mine. And we'll name it something that's appropriate. Perhaps sovereign wealth fund wouldn't be appropriate, but it's going to be the same thing. We'll put tremendous amounts of money through all this money that will be taken in through tariffs and other intelligent things. And we'll have the greatest sovereign wealth fund of them all, and we should have. And that will be used to do things that will be great for our country, including to invest. And
this is Trump Live. This is the Economic Club.
Wisely invest and build it up bigger and stronger and better than any place on earth. We will build extraordinary national development projects and everything from highways to airports and to transportation infrastructure, all of the future.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to call you a fucking loser. I just meant to call you a fucking idiot.
We'll be able to invest in state-of-the-art manufacturing hubs, advanced defense capabilities, cutting-edge medical research, and help save billions of dollars in preventing disease in the first place. And I'm very honored to have been endorsed last week by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That was a great endorsement, and he's very much into helping people. He's very much into helping people. I've known him a long time. That was a great thing when he did that. That was not easy for a Kennedy to be endorsing a Republican. That was not easy. But these are not Democrats. These are radical left lunatics, and you can't let them run your country. We will invest in new and modern agricultural techniques so we can have safe, healthy, high quality foods for our families. That's where Bobby is so interested, foods. He says we're putting a lot of bad foods in our body. You look at other countries which do far less, and they're actually much healthier than we are. This wealth fund will return a gigantic profit, which will help pay down national debt. We're going to work on national debt very strongly, by the way. We're going to have so much money coming in. We're going to work on national debt. We're close to $36 trillion right now. We're going to work on getting it down. And it is many of the people.
That's definitely a lie.
People in this room who will be helping to advise and recommend investments for this fund. This is how we will end the era of inflation, mayhem, and misery under Kamala Harris. I've done it before. We did a great job. And now we really know our job well. I know the smartest, the best people. We have the best people. We have people that, many in this room, they know exactly what we want to do. You know, it's interesting having a experience because I won an election. I went to Washington. I was only in Washington 17 times. I never stayed over. That's according to the fake news, but I think they're right. Great job on trade. Bob Lighthizer, so many other people did such a great job. We rebuilt our military. We rebuilt our entire military. Did a great job. We have great generals, not the television generals, not the generals that took us out of Afghanistan in 24 hours and left that horrible situation, but we have great generals. We defeated ISIS. It was supposed to take 5 years. It took me 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Our generals did a great job. We have great people in our military, and our military is not woke. Believe me, you couldn't get these guys to be woke. Some of the guys on top are woke, but those aren't the ones that are great. So we're going to do things that we didn't do even the first time. We had a great presidency. There was an article written the other day that the Trump presidency was a great presidency. With victory on November 5th, which will go down as the most important day in the history of our country, inflation will be gone. Our energy will be unleashed. Our economy will be set free. Our sovereignty will be restored. Our citizens will thrive. Growth will come roaring back. And America's future will be brighter than ever before. So I want to thank you all. This has been a lovely experience. It was years ago that I was here. We talked about what we were going to do, and we did just about everything we said. And if you'd like, we'll take a few questions, Bob.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trump.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're now moving, as promised, to the question and answer portion of the program. Our 4 very able questioners today are H. Rajan Cohen, the Senior Chair of Sullivan and Cromwell, Sandra Gerber, Founding and Managing Partner, CEO and CIO of Hudson Bay Capital, Mr. John Paulson, founder of Paulson & Company, and Rashma Sanjani, founder and CEO of Girls Who Code and Moms First. We're going to go in alphabetical order, and therefore, Raj, you have the first question.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I would like to ask about the United States economic sanctions programs. These programs have been used, as you well know, to advance our national security interests, our foreign policy objectives, but they also have economic implications. and the most recent was the program against Russia in response to their invasion of Ukraine, where for once we got the support of all our allies. So my specific question is, would you strengthen or modify any of these economic sanctions programs, particularly Russia, including the pipeline you mentioned?
Well, it's a great question. The problem with what we have with sanctions, and I was a user of sanctions, but I put them on and take them off as quickly as possible because ultimately it kills your dollar and it kills everything the dollar represents, and we have to continue to have that be the world currency. I think it's important. I think it would be losing a war if we lost the dollar as the world currency. I think that would be the equivalent of losing a war. That would make us a third world country, and we can't let it happen. So I use sanctions very powerfully against countries that deserve it, and then I take them off because look, you're losing Iran, you're losing Russia. China is out there trying to get their currency to be the dominant currency, as you know better than anybody. All of these things are happening. You're losing so many countries because there's so much conflict with all of these countries that you're going to lose that, and we can't lose that. So I want to use sanctions as little as possible. One of the things that we have with tariffs is that I'll say to them, you don't honor the dollar as your world currency. Is that right? You're not going to do it? No, we're not. I said, that's okay. I'm going to put tariffs all over your product. And they're going to say, sir, we'd love to honor the dollar as the world currency. You know, tariffs, in addition to monetary and the money that we'll take in, which will be bigger than you've ever seen in this country before, gives you tremendous political power for something like that. As an example, I stopped wars with the threat of tariffs. I stopped wars with two countries that mattered a lot. A lot of people would have been killed. And I threatened tariffs coming into the United States if they don't make peace. And we made we didn't have conflicts like you have right now. We had very intelligent people. But the biggest threat you have is you lose that currency, and we have lost something that you'll never get back. And we can keep it if we're smart, but they use it too much, and then they just forget about it. And these countries like Russia, it's going out now and doing its own thing, and you know, they're going out bragging about how they don't need us anymore, et cetera, et cetera. The sad part about Russia is that Ukraine would have never happened if I was president, so we wouldn't really have to be talking about sanctions, but it did happen. And one of the things I'm going to do, a little bit relevant to your question, is if we win, I believe I can settle that war while I'm president-elect. Before I ever get into office, I can get that war settled and get that war stopped, because it's a horrible, horrible war. And far more people are killed in Ukraine, far more people than you're realizing. They'll knock down this massive building, amazing, the size of these buildings, they'll knock it down. They'll say nobody was injured. No, a lot of people were killed. The real numbers are far greater than what people are looking.
So I've been watching a lot of the Asian shit.
You know, so I think it's a very important thing. Sanctions have to be used very judiciously, and you can win. We have things much more powerful, actually, than sanctions. We have trade, but we cannot lose our dollar standard. Very important. Thank you very much.
Great. Sander?
Thank you, Mr. President, for all the details on your economic policy. As you alluded to, tariffs are the other side of sanctions. And given that China is our major trading partner with our largest imbalance and possibly our chief national security threat to the United States, how can we better institutionalize trade policy and national security policy to be coordinated?
So I had a great relationship with President Xi of China, really very close relationship. Now look, he likes China, I like us, so but I don't want to sound foolish. He was my dear, dear friend. He's a tough guy. He's a fierce person. I say very smart. You know, when you say he's smart, the fake news goes crazy. He said President Xi is smart. And I say, you know, he controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. He's smart. But we had a very good relationship with China until COVID. And when that came in, it was a whole different ballgame as far as I was concerned. You know, we made a great China trade deal, maybe better than the USMCA. And I'd never talk about it because what happened with COVID for the whole world, $60 trillion in, you know, deaths, 70 million, 60, nobody even knows how many deaths. And it all came out of Wuhan. So it changed my relationship. But I think I'll have a great relationship with China. I had one before, and they respected us, but they respected us because they no longer thought we were fools. They used to think we were fools because we built China. They would take over $500 billion a year and use it for their military and other things. And we got nothing out of that. We got some cheap product. You can buy 19 pencils instead of 2. Who the hell cares? You can buy 16 dolls for your daughter instead of 2 nice dolls. And we got very little out of that relationship. They got a tremendous military power, and they still have it today. So, but I believe we will have a very good relationship with China and with a lot of other countries that we're not getting along with too well today. And things are going to straighten out. We're going to get them straightened out very quickly. Very important that we get along with the rest of the world. You know, we have things today called nuclear weapons. I rebuilt our whole military, including our nuclear capability. And so I got very familiar with it. And, you know, I say this often because I had an uncle who was the longest serving, I believe the longest serving, I was told that by MIT, but he was there 39, I guess, or 41 years, longest serving professor in the history of MIT, and nuclear was something he knew a lot about. And we used to talk about it. I'd say, Uncle John, there's no way. He was telling me about this incredible power that was being unleashed potentially. And I say, Uncle John, you could never. And you know what? He was very modest because I've seen the destructive capability. And this world is going to have to get along because if that's ever unleashed, we already have too many countries that have at least remnants of it, some of it. But probably 5 countries, if you think. And Kim Jong-un, when I went to the White House after winning in 2016, I sat with President Obama, which is a ritual. And you sit and you talk. And I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea is the biggest problem. I don't think it's solvable. I said, have you tried calling him or talking to him? Actually, the answer was yes, and he wasn't responded to. But I did, and we were very safe. It started off a little rocky, if you remember. Little Rocket Man, I called him, and he called me things too. He's got a red button on his desk. I said, I have a bigger red button, and my red button works. I said, and then it started getting a little nicer, and then one day I got a call that they'd like to meet, and it was a great thing. We had a great meeting. We had 2 meetings, actually 2 great meetings, summits, and we had no problem with them. Now they have a problem because they're not liking this administration. They don't respect this administration at all. So we have to get along. We have to get along. We can't have World War III. You're going to end up in World War III. Just like you should have never had Russia go in. It would have never happened if a competent person led us. It would have never happened. He led them into it. And I'm not blaming Biden. But you know what? What he was saying was exactly the wrong thing. I said, we're going to have an invasion because of a lot of the rhetoric. It was stupid rhetoric. But it would have never happened, not only for that reason. Oil was down low. You know, oil was almost at $100 a barrel. So Putin is one of the only people. I mean, nothing's easy in life. But Putin at $100 a barrel, war works. At $40 a barrel, it didn't work at all. So we're going to get back to a intelligently run place, a place where other countries aren't using the word nuclear. That word was never talked about because I knew the power of it. And I talked to Putin about it. I talked to President Xi about it. I think we were going to do, you remember the talk where we were going to reduce nuclear capability substantially. All 3 of us, we're going to start it. We're going to reduce very substantially. And then we had the election. And after the election, they didn't talk about that or anything else, frankly. But we have to be very, very careful because the destructive capability of nuclear, when people talk about global warming, I say the ocean is going to go down 1/100th of an inch within the next 400 years. That's not our problem. Our problem is nuclear warming, and we better be smart, and we better have smart people at the top that know how to deal because these people don't know how to deal. Putin came out today, he endorsed Kamala And I didn't know, was I supposed to call him up and say, thank you very much, I appreciate it. But he endorsed Kamala. I have a feeling, I don't know. I don't know exactly what to say about that. I don't know if I'm insulted or he did me a favor. But we have to get along with the world. We can't have war because the destructive capability, you can be the head of the biggest bank wherever the hell Jamie is sitting. You can be the head of the biggest bank in the world, and a couple of nukes in your bank doesn't mean a thing. You gotta get along. This is such an important job. It's a dangerous job too. Very dangerous job. If you look at statistically, being president is very dangerous. That throbbing feeling I have. Oh, that throbbing feeling. No, it's a very dangerous job, and you have to do it right. And if you don't do it right, bad things will happen to the world. Things like you've never seen before. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Paulson behind me to your right, Mr. President.
Hi, John.
First, let me thank you for your presentation today. President Trump, in the last fiscal year, the fiscal deficit under the Biden administration was approximately $2 trillion. Under the policies you've announced, the deficit would come down from items such as increased revenues from tariffs, as well as eliminating the tax incentives for the Green New Deal. These gains would be mitigated by decreases in revenues from policies such as no tax on tips. Overall, what do you estimate will be the impact of the fiscal deficit from your policies?
Well, we just hit record highs at numbers that nobody ever thought possible. You're right, it's over $2 trillion. Nobody thought that was a number that was, I mean, you can go back 4 years. Nobody thought a number like that would be possible. It's crazy. It's like, it's just horrible, actually. But yeah, we're 2 trillion, and I view it as profit and loss to a certain extent. A lot of people say, oh, it's trade. You know, you have many people say trade deficits don't matter. I think they matter a lot. We're going to have tremendous growth. What I'm talking about is all about growth. Tax is relatively minor compared. They wanted to do that during my administration. I said, if you do it, we're going to put a 200% tariff on every car, and you'll never be able to see it. There will never be one car coming across our border. And if I would have let them do it, we would have had these 2 factories. Well, now they're building massive factories, more than 2, and they're going to kill Detroit. And the head of the union, the United Auto Workers in Detroit, has done a terrible, terrible job, just a terrible job. But we're going to bring tremendous growth back. And remember, we're also taking in a certain percentage. I won't name the percentage today, but it'll be a certain tariff percentage, which will be higher than people had heard in the past. And we will be bringing in billions and billions of dollars, which will directly reduce our deficits. Okay, thank you very much. Good job you've done, by the way. Very good.
Thank you. And the final question, Resma, is to you.
Thank you. President Trump, you talked about how the increase in the price of food, gas, and rent is hurting families. But the real cost that's breaking families' backs and preventing women from participating in the workforce is childcare. Childcare is now more expensive than rent for working families and is costing the economy more than $122 billion a year, making it one of the most urgent economic issues that is facing our country. In fact, the cost of childcare is outpacing the cost of inflation, with the majority of American families of young children spending more than 20% of their income on childcare. One thing that Democrats and Republicans have in common is that both parties talk a lot about what they're going to do to address the childcare crisis, but neither party has delivered meaningful change. If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. I was somebody. We had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because the childcare is childcare, there's something you have to have it in this country. You have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you. Very good question. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trump. It's great that you accepted our invitation to be with us today. Thank you, Raj, Sander, John, and Reshma for your questions. The president is now going to be leaving the building, and so we want to all stay seated while he and his team leave. But as he leaves, let's all say thank you one more time for him accepting our invitation to be here today.
Should have kept the mic on. Should we go back? Fuck.
An incredible country.
The president is now going to be leaving the building, and so we want to all stay seated while he and his team leave. But as he leaves, let's all say thank you one more time for him accepting our invitation to be here today.
This is all irrelevant. I'm sorry. This is all irrelevant. The philosophical claims
and arguments about what's good and what's bad and objective. It's totally irrelevant to the question. It's totally irrelevant then to the question of whether a person can look at the atrocity. No. Again, this, stop, please.
Just answer one question for me. How do you do it?
What do you mean, how do I do it?
How do you get from this to another?
Who said I do?
It's so easy.
Who said I do?
How do you
This kind of, shut up, please. This is exactly my point. What you're doing, what you're doing is exactly what the stupid kid in the video did.
I want you to show me how to do the other thing.
Again, you're changing the subject and moving the goalpost. You're doing exactly what the idiot kid in the video did, which is just kind of,
It's easy to criticize the kid in the video. I'll do it. But
fucking idiot. You're just as dumb as he is.
Okay. We got new people on the stage here. Maybe want to say something. Thomas, do you want to say something?
I haven't watched the video, but the moral philosophy conversation can be very complex. I would advise.
How do I do it?
That's my 2 cents.
All right. That was nice input. You could watch the vid, and there are other aspects there that you may want to comment on. So I'd like you to hear your opinions after you saw it. After you've seen it.
Hey, can you put me back in the queue? This is Adrian.
You're in the queue. Well, why do you ask? You can speak.
Okay, so I mean, argumentation and conflict and disagreement to me is at the root essence of all esoteric philosophical education. And I recognize the troll in Benjamin because I recognize the troll in myself. But, I am a critique of anger and hopefully not individuals, because I think that if you really understand anger, you see how it's a detriment to your own emotional stability or your progression towards greater things. So Benjamin is the perfect example of what I like to call the S word. I won't say what that word means, but El Normo knows what that S word means.
What did Benjamin just right now say that you object to?
Nothing. I'm disagreeing to his lengthy disagreement on this app. He is what I call a troll. And he admits that he takes the position of every position in order to have no position.
Adrian, you wanted to be in the queue, and let's make that a useful moment. But now, Benjamin, you something there you oppose what Benjamin said. I'd like to know what it is that you oppose about the content of what he said. Let's leave ad hominem out. Okay, so if you have something to say, say it. I think Caleb also mentioned something earlier, but he pointed out something in Benjamin's argument that he disagreed with. So if you would do the same, I'm ready to hear you.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's a critique of the way that Benjamin communicates, or what I'm trying to get at is that this app is a road rage app, and every room is a new drive to some new destination.
I do not want to sound like a disciplinarian to you because I respect your literacy.
I assure you, sir, you can't be a disciplinarian to me because you're not my daddy. Go ahead, kick me out. Prove you're a fascist. I don't care.
You want to say what the content of what Benjamin said. You want to specify something you object to.
Listen, my memory doesn't exist in Benjamin's words. I'm trying to be here now. Do you know what that means? That means be here now.
Okay, be here now. Okay, then. I think you finished what you had to say then. Are you complete?
Correct. I'm complete and I'm out of the queue. Thank you.
All right, only if you feel like you've said everything you wanted to say. All right, anybody else want to speak? Kitty coming up. Banjo? All right, Banjo.
Because you're not my daddy.
Just call me Badger String from now on. Okay. Mutual. I love you too. I love you all in the room here. Anybody else want to say anything? We're watching a video, Badger. Okay, we're watching this 30-second clip. And after you watch it, you want to express some words about it. We'll like to hear.
Hey,
Yes, Katie.
hey, I just wanted to say yes. Of course, I'm going to watch this really quickly. After that, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate what Adrian said. I know that it seemed to be kind of like just cut off, but I came up here to say that yes, Benjamin, you have been more than a contrarian for several years on this app. It's draining in every sense, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'll check out.
Benjamin.
Thanks.
You know, people who are going to go over what Benjamin said a few minutes ago, and he brought up a point, because I listened to the point, and the point was, if Benjamin can correct me if I'm wrong, he said that there is genocide in the Old Testament, and so what makes the theists think they're above genocide? What makes them think they're more moral than the atheists, possibly? Benjamin, is that what you were getting at?
Well, I think that's the point, right? If the point of this video is to say here's an atheist, he can't say that the gas chambers were wrong. The
Is he doing that as an atheist, or is he...
A troll. He's doing it as a troll.
He is doing it as an atheist. If you watch the video, you'll see that it's the fact that he's an atheist is why it ended up here. It's the point that's being made implicitly, the framing here. And look, here's an atheist. He's a student. He's a bright, young, educated atheist. And he's biting the bullet, and he can't just simply say that the Holocaust was wrong because atheism doesn't give him the tools to do so. My argument is theism, if you want to just take biblical theism as a small example, I mean, look, Zoroastrians, you're going to just say slavery and genocide are wrong, okay? But biblical theists are kind of the creep without cow, because the God of the Bible commits multiple genocides and commands his chosen people to commit multiple genocides, which they willingly oblige. So,
Kitty, don't go away. Kitty, don't go away. Kitty, don't go away.
If you think that the theist is on like some kind of solid ground here, you could condemn Hitler. Hitler was a Christian project, largely informed by the Bible.
All right, Benjamin, we got another people who want to respond to this.
Before we move on, and I've been listening intently for 30 minutes, this is for Chrissy from her Uncle Steve.
The birthday song might be copyrighted.
Stage in the entire atheism house. Happy birthday.
Thank God I appreciate you.
That was nice. That was very thoughtful, Steve. Christy or Kitty.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, moderators. Thanks, Atheism Club, and especially thanks, Uncle Steve.
Now, we had a few people that want to respond. Joanna, Caleb, and somebody else. Okay, Steve already spoke. Okay, who's going to speak first? Joanna?
Wait, can you put me back in the queue, Eitan?
But we're going to let Joanna speak, and then Caleb, and then you may speak. Is that right? Is that okay? Yes, that's what we're going to do. Okay, Joanna.
Okay, Kitty, and anyone who hasn't heard it, I'm going to play it again. It's not
okay.
This is the Brentmore arrow extractor, and this was made after the Battle of Shrewsbury when Prince Hal got hit in the face by one of these arrows. The trouble is, normally this...
Yes, okay, now who else wanted to speak? Wanted to speak? Caleb?
Benjamin, congratulations. congratulations for trolling and raising your own same issue that you always do in your own.
This is how AG1 works to make healthy habits simple.
About atheism and theism. I don't care where you get your morality. If your morality can't lead you to say genocide bad, then you have no morality. And if your ideology, right, and I would say that for religious people too, right? If you are so hell-bent on the Bible, true, that you can't self-reflect and about what the actual text of the Bible is, you also have a broken world. But you're distracting from the point. Of this idiot kid. This kid is simply an idiot. You give him way too much credit for being educated.
Yeah, I didn't think educated or bright really applies to this kid. He just seemed like robotic. What do you call that? Just reciting.
Dumb millennial. Yeah.
But I guess maybe Benjamin might equate his contrarian orientation with brilliance, possibly. So
all right. So the thing is, hold on a second, Benjamin. There's a cue here. You're after the cue, Benjamin. Sorry, I hate to come down hard on.
Adrian will be speaking, and I hope you'll be concise because we have people who want to speak.
Yeah, the conciseness is essentially Einstein, which is relativity, meaning that in all of these genocide stories, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita or the Old Testament, it's alluding to perspective and framing. And when you do these history hypnosis lessons to try to gaslight genocide, you, sir, are basically a troll. And I recognize the troll in you because I recognize the troll in myself. I hope that was succinct. I am complete.
I'm confident. My understanding is God's What? There's no way a very common thought. A lot of people have tried to and it's very difficult to answer.
Oh, welcome, Cuckoo. Welcome to the healing skin flute star. Penis.
iterate on it and really definitely do want the feedback on it as well. So a lot of the feedback early on about notifications is null. So as you're experiencing these rooms for the first time, or anything that you've experienced in them, because how do I do it? What should I do?
Okay, if you talk about vaccines on Google, they delete your video and then they make you do a 7-question, 15-minute training. This is about medical misinformation vaccine. While there's different types of medical misinformation, the one we'll focus on most in your training is vaccine misinformation. YouTube doesn't allow content that poses a serious risk of egregious harm by spreading medical misinformation that contradicts local health authorities or the World Health Organization's guidance about specific health conditions and substances. This policy includes the following categories: prevention misinformation, treatment misinformation, denial misinformation. We may allow content that includes medical misinformation if the context has educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic context. These exceptions are in the past to promote medical misinformation. This training includes descriptions of medical misinformation, which could be upsetting or triggering to some people. Okay, if you talk about vaccines on Google, they delete your video.
The aim of destroying the entire nation or group. Pieces of sailors coming back are not a nation or nationality. They're not a Chino.
So say there was a small island, okay, of people.
A creator uploads a video in which they claim they researched vaccines online and are now convinced that vaccines cause cancer. Is this a violation? Yes, of course it is. A creator uploads a video in which they claim they researched vaccines online and are now, oh, that's correct, excellent, Mehmet uploads a video in which he calls the COVID-19 pandemic a hoax. He claims that nobody has actually died from the coronavirus and that people have only died of panic attacks because they believed the fabricated hype from world government leaders. Is this a violation? Yes, of course it is. Correct. Sophia recorded a conversation with her friends where she claimed she became infertile after a chemical abortion using the prescription medications mifepristone and misoprostol. Sophia urged her friends to avoid chemical abortions or else they would also become infertile.
The creator uploads a video in which they claim they researched vaccines.
Sophia recorded a conversation with her friends where she claimed she became infertile after a chemical abortion using the prescription medications mifepristone and misoprostol. Sophia urged her friends to avoid chemical abortions, or else they would also become infertile. Tammy posts a video after getting the influenza vaccine. She shares that she became permanently paralyzed after receiving her seasonal influenza shot. In the video, she warns others not to get the influenza vaccine because you're all going to suffer the same way I did. Is this a violation? Yes, of course it is. Correct. This example violates our policy. We do not allow claims that vaccines cause chronic side effects outside of rare side effects that are recognized by health authorities. While we may make exceptions for content in which creators describe their or their family's first-hand experiences, we recognize there is a difference between sharing personal experiences.
Sophia.
While we may make exceptions for content in which creators describe their or their family's first-hand experiences, we recognize there is a difference between sharing personal experiences and promoting misinformation about vaccines. Misaki and her friends filmed themselves having a conversation in the car. In the video, Misaki says she doesn't want to get the COVID-19 vaccine because the shot won't actually prevent her from getting COVID-19. Is this a violation? But yes, of course. That's incorrect. This video doesn't violate our policy because Misaki doesn't spread medical misinformation. According to information from health authorities, there is not a guaranteed prevention method for COVID-19. A news agency uploads a clip from a popular blogger who warns parents against the measles, mumps, and rubella MMR vaccine. The blogger says that the MMR vaccine is unsafe because it causes autism. After the clip, the newscaster says that multiple health authorities report the MMR vaccine is safe and effective and does not cause autism. Select all correct answers. This video violates the policy because the blogger claims that the MMR vaccine causes autism. This video does not violate the policy because the blogger is very popular. This video doesn't violate the policy because the newscaster contradicts the blogger and provides accurate information. You're almost there. Fuck. Select all the correct answers. Answer 1 is incorrect. Well, the blogger's statements contradict information from health authorities and violate our policy by claiming that the MMR vaccine causes autism. We allow this content because of the additional context that the newscaster provides with countervailing views. Answer 3 is correct. While the blogger's statements contradict information from health authorities and violate our policy by claiming that the MMR vaccine causes autism, we allow this content because of the additional context that the newscaster provides. The blogger's... Try again. This video does not violate policy because the blogger is very popular. That's obvious. That's it. That's correct. While the blogger's statements contradict information from health authorities and violate our policy by claiming that the MMR vaccine causes autism, we allow this content because of the additional context that the newscaster provides with countervailing views. In the video, Friedrich says he normally supports vaccines, but he has some concerns about the organizations that own COVID-19 vaccine patents. Friedrich says that he's sure the COVID-19 vaccine is a part of a depopulation agenda and will kill everyone who gets it. Select all correct answers. This video violates the policy because Friedrich is criticizing the organizations that own vaccine patents, obviously. This video violates the policy because Friedrich is claiming that an approved COVID-19 vaccine will kill people as a means of population reduction. This isn't a violation because Friedrich was only sharing his personal... This video doesn't violate the policy because Friedrich supports vaccines generally, and it's okay for the COVID-19 vaccine to be his one exception to the rule. Check. You're almost there. Answer 1 is incorrect. Creators can criticize organizations in their videos, but this video violates the policy because we don't allow content that contradicts information from health authorities and could cause egregious harm, such as claims that approved vaccines are a means of population reduction. Answer 2 is correct. We don't allow content that contradicts information from health authorities and could cause egregious harm, such as claims that approved vaccines are a means of population reduction. This video violates the policy because we don't allow content that contradicts health information from health authorities and could cause egregious harm, such as claims that approved vaccines are means of population reduction. Again, this is Google YouTube. Okay, we're taking this vaccine policy training from Google YouTube, and we're going to try it again. In a video, Friedrich says he normally supports vaccines, but he has concerns about the organizations that own COVID-19 vaccine patents. Friedrich says that he's sure the COVID-19 vaccine is a part of a depopulation agenda and will kill everyone who gets it. Select all the correct answers. This video violates the policy because Friedrich is criticizing the organizations that own vaccine patents. This video violates the policy because Friedrich is claiming that an approved COVID-19 vaccine will kill people as a means of population reduction. This isn't a violation because Friedrich was only sharing his personal opinions. This video doesn't violate the policy because Friedrich supports vaccines generally. And it's okay for the COVID-19 vaccine to be his one exception to the rule. Again, this is literally a policy training that YouTube is making YouTube users take. And I'm going to film this whole thing to show you how absolutely scary and insane this is. This is Big Brother news. Okay, Okay, everybody, this is Google YouTube. I received a community guideline strike because I talked about vaccines. And apparently I violate my local health authorities and the World Health Organization policy. So now Google is making me take what's called a policy information, vaccine misinformation policy training. And I want to show you the questions and also what the correct answers are and what the false answers are. So if you have to take this test in order to continue to upload videos to YouTube, you will know the correct answers to this policy training test. Question number 1. Again, the date is 9/5, 2024, 1:06 p.m. Rather surprised, but not surprised. Here we go. A creator uploads a video in which they claim they researched vaccines online and are now convinced that vaccines cause cancer. Is this a violation? Yes, of course it is. That's correct. This example violates Google YouTube policy. We do not allow YouTube content creators that claim that vaccines cause chronic side effects like cancer outside of rare side effects that are recognized by health authorities. So what YouTube is telling you is if you make a claim that the vaccine caused a rare side effect, that's allowed. And this is the policy information. Vaccine misinformation, content that poses a serious risk of egregious harm by spreading medical misinformation about currently administered vaccines that are approved and confirmed by your government to be safe and effective by local health authorities and, of course, the World Health Organization. These types of videos are not allowed on YouTube. For example, we don't allow content that contains the following misinformation or makes these claims. Vaccines cause chronic side effects outside of rare side effects that are recognized by health authorities. So you cannot make a claim that a vaccine makes a chronic side effect, but you can make a claim that a vaccine makes a rare side effect. You cannot claim that vaccines are part of a depopulation agenda. You can also not claim in YouTube videos that vaccines do not reduce transmission or contradict or contraction of disease. You can't claim that. So I guess they're going to have to take down all of the Joe Biden and Rachel Maddow videos, as well as, so I guess actually the Bill Clinton, Barack Hussein Obama, and George Bush video violate that YouTube policy that vaccines do not reduce transmission or contradiction of disease. You cannot claim that. For example, we don't allow content that contains the following misinformation. Vaccines do not reduce transmission or contradiction of disease. You can't claim that. Then this is the final claim that you can't make. Vaccines contain ingredients that are not on the vaccine ingredient list. You can't claim that either. We may allow content that includes medical misinformation if and only if the content has educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic contextuals. So it has to be educational, documentarial, scientific, or artistic. That's only 4 reasons that you can actually create medical misinformation. We may also make exceptions if the purpose of the film or the video is to condemn, dispute, or satirize misinformation that violates our policies. We may also make exceptions for content discussing the results of a specific medical study, sharing personal testimony, or showing an open public forum like a protest or public hearing, provided the content does not aim to promote misinformation that violates our policies, which is vaccines cause chronic side effects outside of rare side effects that are recognized by health authorities, or vaccines are part of a depopulation agenda, or vaccines do not reduce transmission or contraction of disease, or vaccines contain ingredients that are not on the vaccine ingredient list. These exceptions aren't a pass to promote medical misinformation. Okay, that's question number 1 from the Policy Training Institute by YouTube, Google's Vaccine Medical Misinformation Policy Training. Question number 2. Mehmet uploads a video in which he calls the COVID-19 pandemic a hoax. He claims that nobody has actually died from the coronavirus and that people have only died of panic attacks because they believe the fabricated hype from world government leaders. Is this a violation? Yes, of course. Correct. This example violates our policy because it contradicts information from health authorities and could cause egregious harm by explicitly denying the existence of COVID-19. And then over here is the policy information. Same as I read before. This is question number 3. Sophia recorded a conversation with her friends where she claims she became infertile after a chemical abortion using the prescription medication mifepristone and misoprostol. Sophia urged her friends to avoid chemical abortions. That means Plan B or the pill, or else they will also become permanently infertile. And that means they'll never have babies if they get an abortion now. That's correct. Is this a violation? Yes, obviously. This example violates our policy because it promotes misinformation about the side effects of the chemical abortion method, aka Plan B, which is deemed safe by health authorities. While we may make exceptions for content in which creators describe their or their family's firsthand experiences, we do not allow content that promotes misinformation about safe abortion methods, such as telling others they will become infertile after using methods deemed safe by health authorities. Okay, that's question number 3 of policy training. And apparently that has to do with vaccines, but I guess abortion and birth control is also now a verboten topic. Question number 4, Tammy posts a video after getting the influenza vaccine. She shares that she has become permanently paralyzed. Totally paralyzed after receiving her seasonal influenza shot. In the video, she warns others not to get the influenza vaccine because you're all going to suffer the same way I did, which means you're going to become paralyzed if you get the influenza vaccine. Is this a violation? Even though Tammy is now permanently disabled? Yes, of course it is. This example violates Google YouTube policy. We do not allow claims that vaccines to treat influenza can cause chronic side effects outside of rare side effects that are recognized by health authorities. Do you think maybe permanent paralysis might be a rare side effect, Google YouTube? While we may make exceptions for content in which creators describe their or their family's firsthand experiences like becoming permanently paralyzed, we recognize there's a difference between sharing personal experience, such as becoming paralyzed, and promoting misinformation about vaccines, because obviously getting the vaccine injection didn't cause the paralysis, and it's a lie. That's fake, and you're not allowed to do that on Google YouTube, clearly. Correct. Okay, this is question 5. Misaki and her friends film themselves having a conversation in the car. In the video, Misaki says she doesn't want to get the COVID-19 vaccine because the shot won't actually prevent her from getting COVID-19. Is this a violation? No. This doesn't violate Google YouTube policy because Misaki She's not spreading medical misinformation. She just says she doesn't want to get the shot because it won't actually prevent her from getting COVID-19. According to information from health authorities, there is not a guaranteed prevention method for COVID-19. So it would be medical misinformation to actually go on YouTube and create a video saying that if you get the vaccine, you will not get COVID-19. That would be logically wrong. So this is we're moving on to question 6. A news agency uploads a clip from a popular blogger, aka probably they mean YouTuber, but obviously people, anyways, who warns parents against the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. That's MMR vaccine. So a popular blogger, aka YouTuber, warns parents against the MMR, warning them. The blogger says that MMR vaccine is unsafe because it causes autism. That's right. MMR vaccine causes autism. He's warning you. After the clip, the newscaster says that multiple health authorities report that the MMR vaccine is safe and effective and does not cause autism. Then select all the correct answers. This video violates the policy because the blogger claims that the MMR vaccine causes autism. Again, the question is, even though there's never, ever actually a question mark in the question, it says a news agency uploads a clip from a popular blogger. So a reputable news source, either Disney or Comcast or Discovery, somebody at that news agency has uploaded a video from an outside blogger who claims that the MMR vaccine is unsafe because it can cause autism. So basically you have reputable news correcting fake news online. And the question is, select all the correct answers. Okay. So first answer is incorrect. The video violates policy because the blogger claims that the MMR vaccine causes autism. That is not a correct answer. The video does not violate the policy because the blogger is very popular. Well, obviously, it's not a popularity contest, so that can't be a correct answer. And then the correct answer is this video that the news source, most likely Disney or Comcast, that uploaded the video of the shit poster troll on YouTube or Blogger, this video does not violate the policy because the newscaster, aka the reputable news source, contradicts the blogger and provides the accurate information, because clearly MMR vaccines do not have rare side effects like autism, because that's factually incorrect. Okay, that was question number 6, part of the YouTube Google policy training on vaccine misinformation. Now, this is a really tough question, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to pass the test unless you really follow along. In a video, Friedrich says he normally supports vaccines, but he has concerns. He normally supports vaccines, like normally, just normally. But he's got concerns this time about organizations, businesses. It doesn't mention businesses, it says organizations. So it could be that nonprofits own the COVID-19 patents. But he's got concerns this time, even though Friedrich normally supports vaccines. Friedrich says that he's sure the COVID-19 vaccine is part of a, in quotations, a depopulation agenda and will kill everyone who gets it. But normally he supports it. But this time, and only this time, because of the patents and the organizations that own them, he says he's sure that the vaccine is part of a depopulation agenda, aka conspiracy, and that it's going to kill everyone who gets it. So this is, again, Google's policy training. Select all the correct answers. Again, there's no question in the statement, but they call it a question. Select all the correct answers. I was almost there. I didn't actually get it. And this is why this is the toughest part on the Google YouTube vaccine medical misinformation test, in order to allow creators to continue to upload videos. But now once you're trained and you pass the test, you're going to have no problem, and you'll never spread misinformation again that contradicts your local health authority and the World Health Organization policy, which Google adopts and uses as their official de facto policy. So again, select all the correct answers. This video violates the policy because Friedrich is criticizing the organizations that own vaccine patents. And unfortunately, I got that one wrong. Creators can criticize organizations in their videos, but this video violates the policy because we don't allow content that contradicts information from health authorities, aka whoever they are, and could cause egregious harm. This video could cause egregious harm, such as claims that approved vaccines are a means of population reduction, because obviously that can cause egregious harm. So we got that one wrong. I was not supposed to choose that one. And then answer number 2 is correct. I got this one right. The video violates the policy because Friedrich is claiming that an approved COVID-19 vaccine, it's approved by your government, by the testing authorities, by the scientists. And he's contradicting what the scientists, the government scientists, and the executives at Pfizer and the research departments have approved, have confirmed, and thus they're approved. So he's claiming that an approved COVID-19 vaccine will kill people as a means of population reduction. Obviously, answer 2 is correct. So don't choose answer 3. Then number 3, the third option, this isn't a violation because Friedrich was only sharing his personal opinions. And again, that one, we got that wrong. So we're going to try it again shortly. But answer number 4 is we also got that incorrect. This video doesn't violate the policy because Friedrich supports vaccines generally, and it's okay for the COVID-19 vaccine to be his one exception to the rule. Very confusing. It's a tough test, everybody, but that's why we're shooting this video, to help you walk it through. You might call this the Google, YouTube policy training vaccine misinformation cheat sheet, aka the crib notes. So we're going to try this one again. And again, Friedrich normally supports vaccines, but this time he's sure that because of the patent-owning organizations, that the COVID-19 vaccine or the various vaccines that are patented, it's part of a depopulation agenda. So we're going to try this again. Select all the correct answers. This video violates the policy because Friedrich is criticizing the organizations that own vaccine patents. No, that's okay. You can criticize organizations. Number 2, this video violates the policy because Friedrich is claiming that an approved COVID-19 vaccine will kill people as a means of population reduction. This video violates the policy. Yes, clearly violates. That's a correct answer. This isn't a violation because Friedrich was only sharing his personal opinions. No, he's spreading medical misinformation. This video doesn't violate the policy because Friedrich supports vaccines generally. That's right, he generally supports them. And it's okay for the COVID-19 vaccine to be his one exception to the rule. I'm not so sure about that. I don't think that's correct. Let's check it. Oh my God, we got it right. We passed. That's correct. We don't allow content that contradicts information from health authorities and could cause egregious harm because it violates the opinions of the health authorities. Obviously, it contradicts them, such as claims that approved vaccines are a means of population reduction. Obviously, that's not true, and because the WHO and our health authorities tell us it's not true. So clearly, thank you, Google, YouTube, for helping me pass and understand what medical misinformation is. I hope all my viewers here now also have a deeper understanding that the policy training and the policy information, the vaccine misinformation here on YouTube. Again, this is my channel, Elon Musk, Adrian Dittmann. I want to thank you all for joining me, and I hope this video has been helpful, and I hope that you too stop spreading medical misinformation. Again, nice work. I completed the training. We appreciate you taking the time to help us keep YouTube safe. Clearly, I want to keep YouTube safe from medical misinformation, because if we violate what health authorities and the WHO and what they are telling us, which is science, with our pathetic opinions, clearly we're not keeping YouTube safe. So check out our community guidelines anytime you're unsure about posting content. Okay, so anytime I post something, make sure I check the community guidelines. What's next? Oh my God, my warning expires December 4th. Wow, that's like 3 months away. If I violate the medical misinformation policy again before this warning expires, I'll get a strike. They're going to strike me. If you violate a different policy, you'll get another warning with the opportunity to take another training. Okay, great. Close. Nice work. Okay, review and issue 9524 podcast, Trump, Kennedy, Vance, Kennedy, Tulsi News with Adrian Dittmann. So again, this is the podcast. I completed the training September 5th, 2024, and my warning expires December 4th, 2024. That's a long time away. We'll take another look at your content. You can always appeal later, even after taking the training. Appeal denied on September 5th. So appealed it right away. They denied it right away. We'll review your content, let you know within 24 hours. If it didn't violate our policies, we'll put it back on the tube and your warning would remove it. It did violate our policies because you were spreading obviously opinions that are against the WHO and my local health authorities, you'll have another chance to take training. Okay, cool. All right, everybody, that's how Google YouTube is big brothering everyone. It only took me 18 minutes to get through the training. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed this video. This is Google YouTube. I received a community guideline strike because this is Google YouTube. This is Google. This is Google YouTube. I received a
and I forgive you. But still, he needs some sort of forgiveness. He's trying to learn how to forgive himself for that. And when you go to confession, they do the thing called penance. And penance is where you will be absolved of your sins on the condition of actions and that you then are going to do for redemption. And I think that he had that coming to Jesus moment. I think that his penance
supports vaccines generally, and it's okay for the COVID-19 vaccine to be his one exception to the rule. Check. You're almost there. And one is incorrect. Creators can criticize or